A letter from Scotland. Dear little witches, Angus Og and Meg, the cat with half a tail, watched in amusement as Attila the Bun twisted himself into weird shapes, jumping from one position to another. Meg tried very hard not to laugh, but he was finding it difficult, and the odd escaped from his tightly closed mouth. Meanwhile, Attila the Bun moved from the across to the up and through all the spaces in between, all while twisting and jumping and diving. Eventually, Meg gave in. "What are you doing, you silly rabbit?" he snorted. Attila came to a halt. "Remember that Lou cat that came to visit a few weeks ago? Remember how he showed us he could move in all directions at once? Well, that's not something a cat should be able to do at all. Not like that. I'm practicing to make sure I don't get shown up by a cat ever again." Attila looked a little crestfallen. "It's rabbits who can binky like that. It always has been. Cats shouldn't be able to do it better than we can, so I'm in training." "Binky?" asked Meg. "Yes, binky," answered Attila. "That's what it's called when we do the mad rabbit dance and rush about a bit. It shows we're happy, or something." Angus laughed. "It does indeed, Attila," he said, "but I wouldn't worry that a cat is going to be able to do it better than you. Lou is a most unusual cat, that's all." Meg was slightly miffed at this. "Excuse me," he said snootily, "all cats are very good at balance." "They are indeed," agreed Angus Oak pleasantly. "But they don't binky. That's for rabbits. And rabbits can't balance on a moonbeam. That's for cats." Meg thought about this for a little while. "So what you are saying," he said quizzically, "is that everything can balance in its own way." "Exactly," answered Angus. "Even the earth has its own way of balancing, and so does the universe. And when everything is in balance and moving as it should, it makes music. And that music is the songs of the year." Both the cat and the rabbit stared at the god. Neither blinked. They just stared. Angus Og laughed. "Would you like me to try to explain?" he asked. Attila the Bun nodded. Meg carried on staring and then said, "Okay, but I think I might feel a thinking headache coming on." Angus smiled. "It's not too hard," he said. "First thing to think about is direction." He held his arm up straight in the air. This is up. Another word for it is vertical. Then he held his other arm out from his body. "That way is across," he said. "It's also called the horizontal. So two directions, vertical and horizontal. Each of them shows something different if you look along it, right? I can see all the things that are happening across from me, all of the things that are happening up from me, and they're not quite the same." Angus looked slightly worried, but both Meg and Attila seemed to be following what he was saying. Angus Og waggled his head and said, "Imagine my head is the earth, and my arms are the borders of the bit of space that it travels through. The earth goes round the sun on the across bit, but it also moves a little on the up bit at the same time by leaning in and out as it travels around the sun." "Yes!" squeaked Attila, who understood immediately. Meg just frowned his thinking frown. "Well," continued Angus, "if I lean the top of my head towards the sun, it'll be warmer than my chin. Like a cat basking in the sun, Meg." Angus could see the light bulb shine above Meg's head and knew he'd understood. So he carried on. "The world moves something like this in its own space. It travels on its horizontal path around the sun. At the same time, it leans forward and it leans back a little on the vertical, So one half is sometimes nearer the sun and the other further away. It's like the Earth is seeing different things too. It takes the Earth a whole year to travel once around the sun. That's how we get the seasons. Attila the Bun chipped in. Your forehead is the northern hemisphere and your chin is the southern hemisphere, right? Angus was astonished. That's right, Attila, he said. How did you know that? I chewed a small human's geography book once, he said smugly. I think I digested some knowledge. Angus Og laughed at this answer, and then he said, It's brilliant you know about the two halves of the Earth, the hemispheres. It makes this next bit easy to explain. So, he went on, what happens is that when the northern hemisphere leans into the sun, the southern hemisphere does the opposite and leans away. The bit of the Earth that leans in becomes warmer, and it becomes spring and summer. The bit that leans away gets autumn and winter. Attila paid very close attention to this. It wasn't the easiest thing to understand, but the bits of the Eton geography book were sparking in his brain. How the Earth worked as it made its journey around the sun was making sense. Meanwhile, Meg just stared. Angus sighed and bravely carried on with the lesson. Anyway, he said, the way the Earth leans as it moves around the sun throughout the year tells the Earth which season it's in. Like when it's to be summer or winter? Asked Meg. Angus breathed a sigh of relief. Exactly. There are 4 points that tell the Earth that it's time for a new season. The solstices and the equinoxes. At the equinoxes, the balance of the world is perfect and it lines up with the center of the sun. We get the same amount of light and the same amount of darkness in a day. It is a magical time of telling the land to change into the next season. In the northern half, the autumn equinox moves us into the autumn. At the same time, in the southern half of the Earth, the equinox brings in spring. I think my brain is going to explode, moaned Meg. This is hard thinking. But it's worth it, squealed Attila the Bun in excitement. I didn't know the world worked like this. This is the God work you do, isn't it? Asked Meg. It is, or it is a part of it, agreed Angus. We all keep our part of the Earth running as it should, so our lands know when to grow, when to ripen, when to sleep. It would be chaos if the Earth tried to binky like a rabbit. Attila laughed, delighted at the silly idea of the whole world trying to move and balance like a rabbit. Then he said, Angus, you've told us a lot about how the Earth works, but I have another question. The music. Ah, said Angus Og. The equinoxes are a part of the stories of the song of the year. The music of the spheres is the sound of the earth, the moon, the stars, all the planets, and even the sun singing as they spin and turn through the universe. Heavenly music, if you like. Meg sighed dreamily. I like that, he murmured. Why can't we hear it? Oh, but you can, replied Angus. Maybe not with your ears, but deep in your soul you hear it. All the artists, poets, musicians, dreamers, farmers, gardeners, pagans, everyone tuned into the cycle of the year hears it deep in their soul. That's an awful lot to think about, exclaimed Meg, and I'm not sure my thinking is up to it. Oh, it is, answered Angus. Just take it slowly, bit by bit. And I know what always helps you think, Meg, said Attila. Bannocks! All three shouted together. Meg grinned. He knew his friends were right. And off went a god, a cat, and a rabbit, chattering happily about balances, equinoxes, the music of the spheres, the wonder of how the universe worked, and the batch of bannocks that would soon appear. Enjoy the equinox. Till next time, Fiona Tinker.